Hello, and welcome to a new update from the Markets Middleman. Today is Monday, May 11, and I would like to prepare some levels, analysis, narratives, areas of interest for what could come this week. So, as usual, starting from the DXY, we've seen ever since price took this buy side liquidity with the gap, then it created another bearish break of structure. And during last week, we saw something very important from DXY. We saw price sweeping the low that filled up the gap. So, if you watched some previous outlooks, you know that I was potentially still showing bullish signs based on this change of character. So price raided the sell side and then raided the buy side, closing above. Now, I wanted price to stabilize itself around these levels. I prefer not to see such a big another bearish change of character, but price wanted to fill in the gap war that we talked about with in previous outlooks. But what happened is that the sell side was swept one more time. So, in my opinion, notice how the DXY was in a bearish trend for a long time, especially since 2025. So all of this was just a consolidation, and right now it's a question whether we're going to continue the trend to the downside or this is just the bottom for DXY. So really, the US dollar is in a critical phase. Now, if we just trade the narrative and based on the very obvious moves, I see that these lows are still open. Especially that after sweeping those lows, we haven't seen any inverse fair value gap. We haven't seen any break of structure. Price was still trading inside this bearish fair value gap. So if you want to resume bullish on the DXY, this is what I want to see on the daily time frame. I want to see price take this buy side and create the first bullish change of character ever since it started correcting lower. So price really need a lot of time or a lot of work to turn bullish, at least closing above this buy side over here. It could even sweep those two relative equal lows one more time before we see this. So I'm staying very open here in terms of identifying the overall bias. But short term, yes, I am still bearish on the DXY, and I will show you why on the lower time frame. So on the 4 hour, we've seen price is aggressively trading lower. So we're still seeing the displacement to the downside and just correction to the upside. So could this be another correction before we resume the downtrend? Yes, for sure it could be. But this is the question. Will we see it from here trading lower, or price would still manage to sweep this buy side liquidity, cover this gap open over here that was created on Wednesday last week, and then create a market structure shift and continue lower. So this is why I'm waiting a little bit. I want to see either price would displace from here, then it tells us that no, I don't want to fill out this balance right now or gap, so I can take a full confirmation to short into those sell side liquidity. Or if I see today or tomorrow price rotating lower, I'll keep an eye on this gap over here to see if we will have a potential reversal and continuation to the downside. Of course, this is the high that I want price to displace in order for me to change my bias. So I want to see something like this, close the day above, then retrace, and then target this buy side and this buy side over here. So this is the structure that I'm watching from the DXY. Now, what makes me understand more is definitely the price action of EU. So let's objectively just see what EU did in the previous couple of weeks. So price changed the character to the upside on the daily time frame, closed above this external high, reached those critical three buy side liquidities, swept them, and then retraced lower. Now, I was anticipating a balance to this daily fair value gap, but the price just took the weekly fair value gap, which was enough. So it created a sell side, swept it twice here on the interest rate, and then displaced higher. At least on the lower time frame, we had displacement higher, and then continued its push to the upside. Now, I have set something on my chart on the daily time frame, which is the following. This bullish fair value gap over here. Now, why I think it's important? Because after it was created, okay, price didn't respect it much with this gap open, okay, but then after it closed below it, price tended to respect this level. Even on intraday time frames, on the hourly time frames, it traded above but didn't manage to close above this level again and reclaim the bullish bias. So up until Friday, price closed above the high of Thursday and fully confirmed that yes, we are back above this inverse fair value gap. Now, this is not the only information that I'm watching from EU. But I'm aligning this with the hourly time frame, which we will see in a second here. But overall, on the daily time frame, after Friday's reclaimed the bullishness of price, I think that Friday high could be taken. First, sorry, Friday low is protected. Okay, so even though price sweep Friday's low, it shouldn't close back below Friday. So on EU, when we can resume bearish, only if I see a full daily close below Friday's low. If I see something like this during this week, then we could open the targets for this weekly low and then to balance the daily fair value gap. But with how things are looking right now, I think that the bias is still bullish on the EU. Now zooming into the 2 hour time frame, okay, ever since price engineered the sell side, okay, it could actually close above this external high, marking a bullish change of character. Then price retraced into an optimal level, then also created another internal change of character on the hourly time frame, retraced back into a breaker, and then made another push higher. Now this push higher could at least create an hourly break of structure. We closed H2 and H1 above this buy side, and then price manipulated lower, balanced an 8 hour fair value gap, and then also created the bottom, which was on Friday morning, and price still managed to close above this internal high of Thursday. This is what I meant by Friday was able to close above the Thursday's high, marking also another bullish break of structure. Now, I expected that the market will open with a gap, but notice where this gap is inside the inverse daily fair value gap. So this level over here should be protected on EU. Now, here's the question, and that's why I'm gonna wait for a very clear confirmation. The question is, price could still sweep this weekly open without displacing lower. Okay, so this is what I don't want to see. In order for me to stay bullish on EU, I don't want to see EU take this low and close below it. But price can definitely sweep the weekly open, okay, and then I want to see a market structure shift at this level. Or if price continues higher, shows a clear break of structure internal from this internal high, then I'll need to think, okay, that price don't want to sweep the weekly open, doesn't have to, and just want to go up from here. If I scale down into the 1 hour, this is what I want to see in order for me to continue my bullish bias. I want to see a strong displacement higher, creating a bullish fair value gap, not reaching this external buy side yet, so I can place my buy orders from here, protect with this potential engineered fair value gap candle, and target this weekly high, which is the previous week's high. And if we see a certain continuation, a good continuation, then this high over here is open for business. Sorry, I will show it to you on the 2 hour time frame. So first objective is to take out last week's high. Second objective is to fill out this BPR on the H2 time frame, and the third objective is to take the buy side, which was April's high. If price already created the bottom over here and just wants to trade higher. So this is my plan going into the at least first couple of days of the week. So again, to sum it up, either I want to see a raid for the weekly open and then displacement higher to target this buy side liquidity, or just from here price is telling me that okay, I already made the dip lower with this gap, I inverted the 2 hour fair value gap, and right now I will create a BPR, but I will not enter until I see a full displacement and a full close above this internal buy side over here. This is my plan for EU, pretty straightforward. Unless I see a displacement below this low, then I will wait because price could turn bearish in case it was able to close also above this sell side over here. So that's it for the EU. Now moving on to GU, with this weekly gap open, it made the structure looks a little bit not favorable. And I've been focusing on EU for the past 3 weeks simply because the structure is much clearer. But always I have GU in my mind because those two pairs obviously move together and you can benefit from the SMT that is created between those two assets. But overall, I saw that also GU made an external change of character bullish, then retraced back into a daily fair value gap, then also created an SMT divergence, made another break of structure on the daily time frame, closed above this buy side, and then protected. This daily fair value gap is protected. Notice how many days price had been trading around it. So we had Wednesday closed above Tuesday high, so Wednesday low should be protected, and Wednesday high is still open for business. So we have two clear draw on liquidities, Wednesday high and the high of Friday. So have a weekly high, two weekly highs, and a very clear draw on liquidity. Now I expected that the price would retrace back into this order block and then continue higher, but this is what I meant by the weekly gap open. It made it look a little bit complicated. But here's the thing, we can give GU a little bit of time until it shows us another thing, either a break of structure from those highs over here, then we can take an imbalance, and then we can target the weekly high over here. Or we can just simply wait for GU to maybe fill out the balance, the gap, sorry, and then create a very clear structure to the upside, at least not tapping into this buy side, and continue higher. All of this would change if I see GU closing back below the sell side. I think that we resume bearishness, and also there's some open target or imbalances to take out over here on the weekly time frame, as well as those two relative equal lows. So that's why I'm gonna keep GU aside. This is just a note to pick the better price action and trade actually the clear setup. Now I don't usually talk or trade the New Zealand dollar. I do trade the Australian dollar from time to time, but as I was watching the overall bias or narrative, which is the USD weakness, you can really translate this into multiple different assets. And for this sake, I was looking a little bit into the New Zealand dollar, and I saw that this week specifically, it's offering really a significant opportunity. So this idea starts from the weekly time frame, and as you can see, price was consolidating for 3 weeks, but then last week was able to close strongly above the previous weekly high. So this week's low is ultimately protected, and this week's high is subject to be taken. So notice after taking this high, the drawn liquidity goes back into this candle's high. So the objective is to take this week plus this weekly high. So it's very near, almost like few pips difference between them. So the whole idea starts from the weekly time frame. And right now we zoom into the daily time frame. What the daily time frame was showing us the following. Price closed above this external high, marking the first bullish change of character after all of this sell-off to the downside. So we've seen price creating lower lows, lower highs, until price came and closed the day above this buy side over here, marking the first bullish change of character. And after this happened, notice that price didn't reverse sharply. Instead, it consolidated for a long time. So we're talking about since April 16 until Wednesday, May 6, almost 3 weeks of just going sideways. So usually when we see price going sideways for this time, the breakout is aggressive. Okay, then price moves aggressively towards the draw on liquidity or towards an inefficiency. So notice the bottom that price created, and this is the last displacement to the upside. Now this is the weekly high, so the weekly high is still not taken. This is the first objective, this is the second objective. Now over here, it clearly created a bullish break of structure closing above the last external high, leaving a huge bullish fair value gap. But I want to see something more affordable inside of this range. Why? Because if I want to buy, I want to be buying from a discount. And this discount starts from here. Okay, I want an area of interest from the 50% and below. So for this sake, I went into the hourly time frame, and the best area of interest I've seen is the 6-hour time frame. So notice after the displacement, this is the full displacement, price left a significant imbalance over here. The 6-hour fair value gap. If you extend this to the left side, it aligns perfectly with all of this liquidity that was created for 3 weeks. So New Zealand dollar is looking like a textbook example. Of course, price can go higher from here and ignore completely this fair value gap. But here's the thing, I'm keeping a close alert around this sell side. I want to see a full raid into this sell side, a tap into the 6-hour fair value gap, and on the lower time frame or maximum on the 1-hour time frame, I want to see a micro or a small minor MSS market structure shift so that I can take some longs, I can position some longs into the draw on, which is the weekly high. So it's really like very straightforward setup. It all depends whether price is going to show us this setup or not. If I see price displacing higher from here, I wouldn't be interested to trade because at any time price can just sweep this buy side and then push lower. So even though price goes back up, fill this gap, price would still be subject to displace lower. So again, if I see price just trading higher, I would just simply ignore all of this asset and I will just go back to focus on EUGU. But if I see price displacing lower on the 1-hour time frame, creating an inverse fair value gap, for example, or a market structure shift, I'll be positioning into long orders up until this buy side liquidity. So if you want to practice the continuation, this is a very simple continuation method that you can either trade or backtest, of course, after you confirm the structure yourself. Last but not least is gold. Um, so I see that gold is hinting for a significant move in the upcoming week, a move that at least could cover the last week's high. And why I shifted into a bullish bias on gold simply because after price engineered a sell side and then tested this daily order block liquidity. Notice how many days price was consolidating around this level over here. And notice where it was the low of Monday. It was right at this liquidity after sweeping this internal sell side. And right after creating this reversal over here, it was confirmed that it's reversal after closing above this external high and actually trading for 3 days above this high, marking the first bullish change of character ever since price went down. So this was really big from gold, and it opens up the target at least for price to rotate back up and take the weekly high, or maybe it opened up the target for this buy side liquidity. Now, here's the thing. I don't know where gold could be trading if the war officially resumed or the war will be just solved out. But what I know from gold's behavior and from previous years is that gold could be trapped within a potential consolidation to the either to the upside or the downside, doesn't matter. And within this consolidation, you can have some internal trends. So you can have something like this, then price would rotate lower until something major happens and price would either continue its push to the upside or just go up, sweep this high again, fill all of this imbalance, and then continue its push to the downside, and then we would understand that this is a potential correction. So all of those scenarios, I take them aside, okay, and I just focus on what price is showing me right now. This is when I trade the narrative that it's in here in front of me. So what I know is the following. There's a potential for price to rotate back up and take this daily high. This is all I need to know from price until now. And what happens next is not my job. I will be present, I will be prepared for this potential scenario. But what I've seen so far from price is change of character, closing above this previous bearish fair value gap. So on the daily we are bullish, and this is the draw on liquidity over here. Now I want to see something at discount. So I want to be buying at 50% and below from this whole push to the upside. So let's dissect this inverse daily fair value gap and see what is the potential area of interest. And for this sake, I go into the 6-hour time frame, which I like so much, and I see a very beautiful 6-hour fair value gap aligning with this breaker over here. So this is the area of interest that I'll be watching specifically between the inverse fair value gap and between the fair value gap, bullish fair value gap, and the breaker over here. If I scale down to the 1 hour to take an entry, this is what I want to see. If price goes up from here and convince me that this push was significant, then I will wait for a retracement into a bullish fair value gap and target this weekly high. But if price struggles to show a significant bullish structure, just consolidate it a little bit, maybe tomorrow during Tuesday would already engineered Monday's low, sweep Monday's low, tap into the 6-hour bullish fair value gap, and I want to see a very clear change of structure or a break above a previous breaker with a fair value gap, and then I can join buyers again. This, by the way, could happen today. So this was the low created before London session. If today during New York this low was already swept, then I would wait for a significant confirmation close above, and then I will target price higher. At least this weekly high could definitely be taken. And as you can see, price was able to close below the sell side, but this is just internal. Coming after a bullish change of character on the daily, this is just internal and minor. So I wouldn't mind to see price closing, even though, sorry, I saw price close below the sell side, that's still going to be valid for a continuation to the upside. But at the same time, I want to see kind of confirmation on the 1 hour before I place any order on the DXY, on gold. So that was my outlook for today, and at least this outlook could last for the upcoming 48 hours. And as we can see, just before I finish this record, EU is already closing above, so it closed a minor close above the SPY side, but I would like to see this 1 hour also closing above, creating a bullish fair value gap to confirm that this is also a break of structure, and then we can target higher prices. So I hope you enjoyed this outlook. Let's be ready because I think this week is going to be full of blessings. So thank you again for making it this far, and I see you in the next update.